What's up YouTube? Terry coming at you with a Sylvie deck list. After the Luxurious map opened, we saw a huge influx of Sylvie decks really taking over the competitive meta. We want to share with you our list and the one that we have been playing a ton in testing and having a ton of fun playing it. Also, honestly, just kind of smashing with it. The slime package altogether is very, very strong. So I'm gonna jump right into it. Our list is going to be a fire Sylvie list. So nothing crazy there. You're gonna see Sylvie 1, Sylvie with the pack, and Sylvie Slime Sovereign. And this is the new Sylvie, the one that everybody is very excited about. Honestly, the way that these abilities line up in this list really feels strong. And if you're able to utilize all of them on your way up, you're gonna have a really hard time losing that game. So Sylvie 3 opening up all the advanced element slimes, really powerful. Then we've got our flex spot here. We are playing Safeguard Amulet, mostly for the mirror, also against Rye, Merlins, anything that's gonna be doing down-attack damage. Really, really powerful for that. And then everybody's new favorite budget GCR backup charger. Just a great way to draw a card without having to take up your Divine Relic spot, which, speaking of Divine Relics, we've got Quicksilver Grail. This deck really, really can abuse utilizing Quicksilver Grail to bring out Terra Element cards the turn you level up with a Dungeon Guide, or at an opportune moment when it really will throw your opponent off or turn the tides of the game completely. And some of those cards I'm gonna talk about right now. The most important being Stone Scale Ban. Proxy of Vault card that everybody was a little confused with. They understood how powerful it was, but last format and anything before that, Sylvie had a much harder time. But now that we have this Recollection deck and all of these slimes, Stone Scale Band is maybe the strongest regalia in the game. It is absolutely absurd for Sylvie to be able to bring this out, get rid of 3 animals, beasts, whatever, maybe some dead Dungeon Guides in your hand, put them into your graveyard, draw that many new cards, and now you can play stuff at fast speed. And most importantly, we hopefully put enough animals and beasts into our graveyard to be able to activate Gaia's Blessing, which this card has always been insanely powerful, but now, when partnered up with Storm Slimes and this entire package, this card is just absolutely absurd. Being able to play cards off the top of your deck, and honestly, there's something about having a Gaia's Blessing out, your opponent being on their last leg of defense, and flipping that card to reveal a Storm Slime and they know that they're dead. Something about that just hits a little different. It feels really good for Sylvie players. So Gaia's Blessing is a crazy powerful card. Now the next 3, I'm actually gonna talk 2 right next to each other, which is gonna be Verdant Scepter and Horn of Beast Calling. So Horn of Beast Calling is probably the most flexible spot. This particular card, what it does is we banish it, the next beast ally you activate this turn costs 3 less, and because we are Tamer, we draw a card. This is the card that a lot of times we're getting rid of with Ethereal Slime, which we'll talk a little bit more when we get to that, but it can come up every now and then. It lets you play multiple Storm Slimes in a turn or do something crazy with Stone Scale Band, so really, really powerful. But depending on the matchup, sometimes we choose one of these to get rid of with Ethereal. Now, Verdant Scepter in grindy matchups, there's nothing like it. Being able to get rid of a slime to put a bunch of counters on this, pump up my wide board, drawing cards, it really helps us grind into the late game, and you can do some really, really crazy things with this card at fast speed. So that all being said, that'll bring us to our last card, which is going to be Covenant of Thorns. Now, this card is in a lot of sideboards for Sylvie. For us, we really, really respect Tristan. And because of that, Covenant of Thorns is a really powerful card that we can bring out, especially if we have Quicksilver Grail. We can bring this bad boy out when they are trying to, even if they have us locked out with Korhazi Outlook, we're able to use our Quicksilver Grail, bring this in, put this onto an ally, maybe one of our own, maybe one of their shadows, and then boom, we're good. All that damage will go there instead. Another really big one is Majestic Spirit against Merlin. Sometimes when the Merlin game goes too long and they're able to get Majestic Spirit out, it's really hard to close that game out. Sometimes we need a few more turns to build our board, continue to make it grow, tall maybe wide, depending on the situation. And putting a Covenant of Thorns on their Majestic Spirit is just a very great defensive play. So that is going to be our material deck. Let's jump into the main deck. we're going to talk about the spells first. So out the gates, I'm going to kind of go through it a little quick for you because a lot of them are ones you know. First off, we've got Creative Shock. That's all you need to know, right? We're going to draw 2, we're going to discard 1. In this deck, we want to get animals and beasts into our yard. We do have some floating too to help us level up, but it does not hurt us if we miss a floating. If we're putting a king slime or something in there to use later, then we're in a really, really good spot. So that's great. That's Creative Shock. Nothing crazy there. Cremation Ritual. Another way for us to just continue to build value. This with Baby Gray Slime early is really, really strong against aggressive board-based decks. This with a red slime can sometimes just turn the tide completely. Otherwise, late game, this into a king slime after, then creating a unbeatable board. Maybe we just need to change the card that's on top of our deck so that we can Gaia's Blessing something in or dig for that storm slime. It really does play well with this package. We play 3 Increasing Danger. We did have 4. It kind of felt like it was a little too much because we aren't all combo. Storm Slime definitely is one of the main win cons, but we are not based solely on that. We can just build the board and be an incredibly powerful mid-range deck, board-centric. Increasing Danger does help us continue to keep a very healthy hand and keep putting slimes on the board. So our board state gets so out of control, it's so big that we don't really care about the other player's board state. We have a pretty strong feeling that ours will win that fight. So very strong. Obviously, drawing cards is what we want to do and dig through our deck. Now, one of our floating memory and a really powerful card from the Recollection deck is Slime Eruption. We play 4 Slime Eruption. You may banish any amount of Fire Element slime cards and up to 2 non-Fire Element slime cards from your graveyard. For each card banished this way, choose a unit and deal 1 damage to it. So this can be pushing for a little bit of extra damage and then making our Storm Slimes get big. But something really important to remember with this card is that bottom right, fast. So this can happen in response to our Storm Slimes on enter. This can happen really at any time. We can use it as removal if we need to, but banishing slimes is kind of the name of the game for this. So a very powerful card, and then floating memory to boot. Can't go wrong with Slime Eruption. One of the strongest cards in the deck is Blissful Calling, which is an old DOA card. Blissful Calling, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. You may reveal an animal or beast card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Our deck can be very toolboxy, especially after sideboard. So this lets us dig for the slime that we need for a certain situation. It lets us dig for that storm slime to win the game. Maybe that ethereal slime for when we hit level 3 and we want to have a 5/5 stealth true sighter that draws us a card. Or maybe when we talk about the sideboard, it can bring something else in that really helps us there. Just any card that's going to replace itself and build consistency is very powerful. This also is one of the best turn 1 plays to put the card that you know you're going to use to level up down and draw a slime that will help you win later in the game. Just a very powerful card. Then we play our only kind of just base floating memory, I think, in this deck. We are playing 4 Fast Cure. Now this card could, depending on your meta, switch anyway. You could play reprograms. Fast Cure for us has just been good against aggressive decks, especially if we can go Fast Cure, and heal for 8, because this particular build of the deck really preys on those mid to late game decks. We feel very confident in this deck list to be able to take down Luxem, to be able to fight Tristan incredibly well. That is kind of where this focus is. You can build it, change some of the ratios to bring more defensive options to fight off aggro if that is what your meta is. But this card kind of for us is that flex into, helps us against aggro, but really is just going to help us level up in most situations. Or maybe bring out some of our late game regalia from materialization for free without losing cards. And then the last norm spell that we have here is going to be Bestial Frenzy. Now this card is popping off on TCG Player. If you don't have your playset, I apologize. They are getting a little bit expensive because people are starting to see just how powerful this card is. So, champion gets +1 level, or choose 1, class bonus we get to choose up to 2. It's a 2 cost, slow speed. Your champion gets +1 level until end of turn. Target beast ally gets +1 power until end of turn, or target beast ally gains cleave until end of turn. This helps us deal with early board states. This helps us hit our level requirements to get a sneaky swing in when they don't think about it early. But mostly we are using it for that cleave ability. Sometimes we use it so that our king slimes can swing, but most of the time we are using this hand in hand with a card that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit to deal with a board state and gain a lot of life. So let's jump into the fire and norm spirit, mostly animals first. So I'm going to show you first the two norm cards, which are going to be Baby Gray Slime and Limitless Slime. Baby Gray Slime is the best card in this deck. Some might say Storm Slime, but Baby Gray Slime is a crazy card. Being able to play a 1/1 interceptor for 2, that on enter we reveal 2 slimes. They do not have to be the 2 that we use to play it. They can be 2 in our hand that we're saving for later. We get to draw a card directly into our hand. Replacing itself, leaving an interceptor on board, just a crazy powerful play. And if we do that and then Cremation Ritual, wow, that is just such a powerful tempo play. Always good. I love seeing Baby Gray Slime. Early, late, really it does work. So great slime. And then Limitless Slime, which if you have never played a Limitless Slime in the mid game to the late game and attacked with it a couple times, then you don't understand how powerful it is and how crazy this 1/1 for 3 card that scales can just end a game on its own. It continuously, at level 1, it gets floating memory. At level 2, it becomes a 2/3. And then at level 3+, when you attack, you put a buff counter on it. It can get out of control crazy fast if your opponent doesn't respect it. A lot of times people don't want to kill floating memory cards. So it makes it into the late game and can sometimes just snowball out of control. Next up, we have our other animal on the field, Baby Red Slime. This is our Hasty Messenger. Our Hasty Messenger that attacks for a lot more, because if we discard a red card, a fire card, then it's going to be swinging for a 3 instead of a 2. Now, one thing to remember, and always when you're doing card math and hand math to make your plays out for a turn, is that Baby Red Slime does not draw into your hand like a Hasty. It does draw into memory, so that's something you got to remember, but this is a very great way to cycle, and also when you're in your Gaia's Blessing turns, sometimes just playing a Baby Red Slime and being able to swing to get rid of that card that's on top, maybe it's a Creative Shock, and dig for those Storm Slimes. Baby Red Slime gets the job done. Now, our list plays 4 Ordinary Bear. So this is a floating, but the big, most important thing is the fact that this is a Tamer Beast Bear. We wanted to add a few more beasts so that we can hit that Sylvie level 2 bonus of having animals and beasts, but sometimes Ordinary Bear by itself, people don't want to kill it because it has floating memory. If you play this as the card you play after Sylvie 1, then it's a 3/4 floating memory with Pride 2, which is hard to deal with, and a lot of times that can stay alive enough for us to get a draw. So very powerful card, and it's also an early game Bestial Frenzy Cleave target. So sometimes we just need to deal with the board. Boom, as early as turn 2 or 3, you can get this Ordinary Bear out. Even if we're level 1, we can do, we're level 1, we play a bear, it's a 3/4, gets the buff counter. We use Bestial Frenzy to gain a level and cleave, and now we're cleaving for 3. Hopefully we deal with a board that looks problematic. If it dies, it's floating memory. If we discard it, it's floating memory. And a lot of times we use it later to help us bring out Gaia's Blessing. So it might not be a slime, but it's definitely an honorary slime in this deck. Our last beast here is going to be Red Slime. This card is here. Nobody wants to kill it because it just destroys a board state. It is a little scary sometimes. Obviously, if we build a really strong board, we don't really want to use a red slime, but the most important thing is that it is a fire slime for those slime eruptions and also to discard with Baby Red. It can get out of control. It is a pretty solid stat line at 3/2, but the most important thing, like I said, is that on death, deal damage to all allies equal to its power. So we can use Cremation Ritual to deal with the board state early and draw cards. This card really does have a ton of utility in this deck, so don't sleep on it. Then, of course, what level 3 deck would be a level 3 deck without our 4 of Dungeon Guide? Sometimes we just need to get to level 3 in a hurry to get our life up and play one of our endgame slimes, which we're about to talk about. Dungeon Guide lets us do that at a discounted rate a turn earlier. Anything that can help us materialize more cards, that's what we want. So Dungeon Guide fits perfectly. Now, let's talk about the 1-2 punch, the powerhouse slimes of this deck, Ethereal Slime and Storm Slime. So Ethereal Slime is our go-to when we hit level 3 play it for free. It comes in as a 4/4. Its ability goes on the stack. We get rid of maybe Horn, and then we become a 5/5 stealth True Sighter that can attack right out the gates. Vanish isn't stopping this. Innervate Agilities isn't stopping this. It's a 5/5 body. It's really hard to deal with. And that stealth comes up way more than you would think. So it's a huge body that can end a game in a hurry. So once this hits, we start tearing at our opponent's life points, and then we end the game with our Haymaker, which is Storm Slime. So Storm Slime here, this is definitely the card that makes all of this possible. This gives us a flexible win con. It lets us attack from multiple angles. Its on enter is as a spell, deal damage to target unit equal to the number of slime cards in your banishment. So we're banishing slimes constantly, leveling up, using our slime eruptions. Even a Storm Slime might have died, which its on death is you may banish 2 cards at random from your memory. If you do, draw 2 cards, helps us dig. This card ends games. This is the card that level 3 decks are terrified of because they have to deal with 5/5s, 3/4s, all of these big bodies swinging at them. And then if they're using those kind of floodgates, they're susceptible to a Storm Slime for 6, Storm Slime for 7. I lost to a buddy of mine at a local playing this exact list on turn 4 or 5. I was at 0 damage, and he was able to chain a couple of Storm Slimes with attacks and through floodgates kill me for all that 25 damage. So really, really strong. This is a terrifying card. And if it's a card you don't respect, you need to start respecting it. Storm Slime is the real deal. Don't let the fact that this is a Terra Sylvie deck scare you from playing it in a competitive setting. The last 2 slimes and the last 4 cards in this deck are going to be King Slime, which we play 2 of, and 2 Vampiric Slimes in the main. So King Slime, he is a very situational card. We have to have 3 different element slimes in the yard to play him. So when it comes up, he can be a big 4/5 taunter, sometimes a 6/7 taunter that completely halts an aggressive deck that's trying to swing at you with 3 slimes under it that when they do deal with it, boom, we're going to get all those, right? You can do some really crazy stuff at fast speed to banish more slimes and make a Storm Slime hit harder. It really is a powerful card, and the more you play this deck, the more you'll realize how intricate some of the sequencing is and how many crazy situations you can play out of with Stone Scale Band, Storm Slime, King Slime, Slime King. Sorry, I keep saying King Slime, but it's Slime King. And then lastly, we have Vampiric Slime, which is Bestial Frenzy's new best friend. I have healed from 1 point from dying to completely 0 multiple times. Vampiric Slime is a very powerful card when you need it. A lot of times, if you're playing against a slower deck or you don't need a ton of heal, maybe you're going to ditch it. Maybe you're going to use it underneath a Slime King. It is what it is. But against aggressive decks, specifically board-based decks, other slime decks, he can be the most clutch card in your deck. So that is our main deck. I love all these slimes. I love everything that's going on with it. But let's talk about a sideboard. Now, obviously, we're pretty early in a format. This could change a million times before it's completely finalized, but I want to discuss a couple of cards with you guys. So first off, we've got Beastbond Boots, which is just another way for us to get Spell Shroud against these spell-based decks in the Mirror, Merlin, things that are going to try to do these big nuking spell damage. Beastbond Boots is another way to dodge those. Really solid for us. And then Terrafring is a great... We play Safeguard in the main instead of Terrafring. So if it is a aggro board-based deck or they're attacking us, it's aggro Fire Xander, which is one of our worst matchups with this particular list. It's really strong to be able to bring that in when we need it. Speaking of Fiza, let's talk about Reduce to Ash, because we are siding 3 in this. Reduce to Ash is just a great way to deal with Regalia on the board. Obviously, I just talked about Fiza. This can kill after they use their Grail to bring a Poison Dagger. We can regain priority and destroy their Poison Dagger. If we're able to do that, most of the time we're going to win that game, because they're not going to be able to pressure us enough, and then we're going to be able to heal with Vampiric Slimes and just kind of take over the board. So Reduce to Ash, it can come up against Merlin. If they are going to pay 2 for Ghost of Pendragon, we can Reduce to Ash, blow up a sword. There's a lot of really powerful stuff that we can do with Reduce to Ash. We have our 3rd and 4th Bestial Frenzy when we need to deal with board-based, and hand in hand with those, obviously we have 2 more Vampiric Slimes here. These guys kind of go hand in hand in a lot of matchups, so if we're bringing in the Bestials, we're probably bringing in the Vamp Slimes. we need to heal, we need to cleave. And those are the best ways for us to do it. And then the last card I'm gonna show you guys is Twilight Slime. So this one is a very unique slime. Your champion and other slimes you control have Spell Shroud. So again, the Mirror, Merlin, things that are gonna do these big nuking spells. Rye. And I think Rye is another one that has a little bit of a harder time, which is why we have so much Spell Shroud in the sideboard, to be able to fight when they try to do their kill turns. Twilight Slime is a great way to get another body on the board that can keep us safe. It keeps our champions and the other slimes we control, giving them Spell Shroud. And if we are able to get 2 of these out, which I haven't done yet, but if you do, everything will have Spell Shroud. It'll be very hard to deal with your board. So all of that being said, guys, Sylvie is here to stay. Do not counter out. Terra is a terrifying deck. The material deck is amazing. The toolbox ability of this deck, the way you're able to sculpt your hands to your different situations, this really is a true mid-range deck that can have a combo finish, but honestly can also just beat down when it needs to, play a little slower control board. It flexes, it bobs, it weaves, it does what it needs to win the game. And with that being said, guys, thank you for checking this out. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.